Hello everyone, and welcome back to Rules as Written Character Builds. My name is Zach, and on this channel I make character builds for 2024 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, aiming to strike a balance between theme and combat capability. So just like all the other D&D gamers out there, I've spent this week pouring through the new Unearthed Arcana that just came out. Horror subclasses. And I gotta say, the Hollow Warden Ranger and the new Hexblade Warlock are absolutely dynamite. I like the new design direction of Hex and Hunter's Mark granting extra benefits while you concentrate on them. They started that trend for the Ranger with the Winter Walker, which I was such a fan of that I put a build out for it, and that was one of my favorite Ranger subclasses so far. But although I am excited about the Ranger and the Warlock, I want to make a video about another subclass from that Unearthed Arcana, the new Artificer Reanimator subclass. This is another monster companion subclass in the same vein as the Beastmaster Ranger or the Purple Dragon Knight Fighter, but with the very cool and original theme of a Doctor Frankenstein style mad scientist creating monsters out of corpses, reusing corpses to create a monstrous golem of flesh and bone. This was a very fitting subclass to start off the horror subclasses Unearthed Arcana. Rather than just focus on one minion from our subclass, I wanted to instead focus on amassing as many undead as possible, both from the Animate Dead spell and from any extra ones that we can pick up along the way. To achieve this, I want to combine that subclass with a classic Necromancer Wizard to create the ultimate Doctor of Death. So presenting the Reanimator. With these videos, I focus only on the features that either play into the character fantasy or are necessary for the mechanical play of the build. For this reason, you'll often see me skip over class features. That's just me trying to stay on course and keep the videos down to a reasonable length. For our species, I want to go with the Dragonborn today. The Reanimator subclass has some synergy with dealing lightning damage to the reanimated companion, so a lightning-based breath weapon is going to come in handy once the spell slots run out. We are going with a bronze Dragonborn for the lightning damage breath weapon. This will also net us resistance to lightning damage, dark vision, and a limited use flight speed starting at level 5. For ability scores, this build is actually not too multiple ability score dependent. For the first time, we need a good intelligence for spellcasting, and we're going to go ahead and grab a decent dexterity for our armor class and a decent constitution for hit points and concentration checks. So our ability scores will be as follows: a strength of 10, a dexterity of 14, a constitution of 13, an intelligence of 15, a wisdom of 10, and a charisma of 10. It feels nice to not have any negative modifiers for a change, but if you do want more hit points, I would say drop the strength and wisdom or strength and charisma down to an 8 for an extra 4 points to spend on your ability scores, and then bump that constitution from a 13 to a 15. Alright, we are taking the criminal background this time around. The aesthetic of this character is sort of like a grave robber, stealing body parts to craft our undead minions. So I like the idea of having the criminal background as maybe you have a rap sheet or like a criminal background of you grave robbing. With this background, we're going to increase our intelligence by +2 for a 17 and our constitution by +1 for a 14. This background also gives us the alert feat. When you roll initiative, you can add your proficiency bonus to the roll. Immediately after you roll initiative, you can swap your initiative with the initiative of one willing ally in the same combat. You can't make this swap if either you or the ally has the incapacitated condition. So since we're going to have a number of undead minions acting on our turn in combat, I think it's really going to pay this time around to have the alert feat. It'll be kind of like getting first turn in Warhammer 40k and being able to attack with your entire army. But if you don't mind waiting a little while to go, you can always take the tough feat instead for some extra hit points. Going that way, you can have more of a reactive force. So for this build, we're going to be using medium armor and a shield thanks to the proficiency from Artificer. Artificers use their artisan tools as a spellcasting focus, and I love the idea of these tools also being able to be utilized as a weapon. Since we'll be stitching body parts together, leatherworking tools make sense to me, or maybe even carpenter's tools for sawing and binding bones together. This is all admittedly a little gruesome, but if you can convince your DM to let you use some artisan tools as a melee weapon as well, that would be pretty awesome. If not, artificers are also proficient in simple weapons, so you could always just use a hand axe and flavor it as a shovel for that grave robber aesthetic. Let's take a look at the roadmap for this build. Levels 1 through 6 are going to be Artificer levels 1 through 6, and levels 6 through 20 are going to be Wizard levels 1 through 14. Pretty straightforward one this time. We are staying in Artificer long enough to get our reanimated companion and to pick up its extra attack before heading into Wizard for as many spell slots as possible to spend on the Animate Dead spell, and ending with the last Necromancer Wizard subclass feature, Command Undead. So this roadmap does lock us out of any epic boons, but I really thought about it, and I think an additional high power undead minion from that Command Undead ability is absolutely worth the trade-off. Let me know in the comments though if you all think that that is a worthwhile decision. So right into Artificer. First off, let's take a look at our first 6 levels. Artificer levels 1 through 6, we're going to pick up spell casting, the replicate magic item feature, the Reanimator subclass, an ability score improvement, the strange modifications feature, magical item tinker, and magical item plans. So right off the bat, we'll be starting off with spell casting. I love being an artificer because they get proficiency in constitution saving throws, so concentration checks are going to be much easier. We have a good armor class, so I don't mind being in melee combat. We do get synergy from our subclass down the line with lightning damage, so picking up Shocking Grasp as our go-to damaging cantrip feels pretty good with this build. For leveled spells, artificers mainly get like utility spells, so pick up the good ones. Detect Magic, Featherfall, Disguise Self, that sort of thing. At Artificer level 2, we get Replicate Magic Item. The way this works is we learn 4 magical item plans, and at the end of a long rest, we can craft 2 of these magic items. However, we can only ever have 2 magic items at a time. So if on another long rest, we craft 2 more, we'll lose the original 2. So you know 4 plans, and you can have 2 items at a time. So that way you can sort of cycle out 2 of that 4 on any given day, depending on what you think you'll need. You can choose from the provided list of magical items to be your magical item plans, or you can choose any common magic item from a published source. I'm a simple guy, I just like taking the passive benefits. I would grab a +1 shield for the armor class increase, a bag of holding for item storage, maybe a Wand of the War Mage or a Cap of Water Breathing if you're in an underwater campaign. Next, Artificer level 3 gets us our subclass, the Reanimator. The first feature that we get is Jolt to Life. When you cast Spare the Dying, you can modify the spell so that it sends a jolt of electricity through the target, reviving it. The target regains 1 hit point, and each creature in a 10-foot emanation originating from the target makes a dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC, taking lightning damage equal to 1d4 plus half your Artificer level round up on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful save. You can modify the spell this way a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. I really like this feature. As far as I know, this is the only feature in the entire game that allows you to heal somebody with a cantrip, and I think it's pretty fitting for this subclass's aesthetic. Next, we pick up the Reanimated Companion feature. Much like the other companion subclasses, we can create ours once per long rest. In combat, it acts on our turn, and we need to use a bonus action to command it to take actions. We can also expend a spell slot to summon it again if it dies before the next long rest. This companion, however, has some features that make it pretty unique, namely Death Burst and Lightning Absorption. So Death Burst, the companion explodes when it dies, causing a dexterity saving throw. The DC equals your spell save DC. Each creature in a 10-foot emanation originating from the companion. On a failure, they take 2d6 necrotic damage. So this is pretty cool. It's not often that we want our companions to die, but this feature does give us a bit of incentive. Next is Lightning Absorption. This is the one I've been talking about. Whenever the companion is subjected to lightning damage, it regains a number of hit points equal to the lightning damage dealt. This goes hand in hand with the fact that this creature is immune to lightning damage. So instead of taking any damage, it just regains hit points equal to that amount. So if you hit it with a Shocking Grasp, deal 5 lightning damage, it's instead regaining 5 hit points. This is the feature that I really want to focus on building around today. We are going to be trying to fit as much lightning damage into the build as we can, and aiming to make that lightning damage affect multiple enemies so that we can damage enemies and heal our companion by putting it into the area of effects. Artificer level 4 gets us our first ability score improvement, and we're going to go for a feat to bump up our intelligence to 18. Next level, we are going to be getting a pretty good concentration spell, so let's take Warcaster to play into that. Increase your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma score by 1 to a maximum of 20. You have advantage on constitution saving throws you make to maintain concentration. When a creature provokes an opportunity attack from you, you can replace the attack with the casting of a spell. The spell must have a casting time of 1 action and must target only that creature. You can perform the somatic components of spells, even when you have weapons or a shield in one or both hands. So now we have proficiency and advantage on concentration checks, so that's really nice. Plus, with the whole opportunity attack on allies rule, we can even Shocking Grasp our reanimated companion as it runs by us and heal it with that reaction. Artificer level 5 gets us a subclass feature. This one is called Strange Modifications. This lets us choose a modification for our companion each time that we create the companion. So there's two. There's Arcane Conduit, which lets us cast spells through the companion. Also, it lets us add our intelligence modifier to the damage of artificer spells that are from the Necromancy or the Evocation schools of magic, while the reanimated companion is within 120 feet of us. Not bad for a more caster-centric artificer like ourselves. Additionally, you could choose Ferocity as your modification, which basically just gives the companion extra attack. Personally, I do like Ferocity more, but seeing as that companion's attacks are only dealing 1d4 plus your intelligence modifier plus 2, I can see how Arcane Conduit could come in handy more often as well. This level also unlocks second level spells for us, and there are two that I wanted to take a look at. First off is the Homunculus Servant. This spell is going to summon a tiny magical ally, similar to the Find Familiar spell, but this one is much more powerful. It possesses a decent melee and ranged attack, a reaction that lets you cast a spell through the familiar space, and it even has evasion. I wanted to combine this with the Dragon's Breath spell, a concentration spell that lets us grant a creature a breath attack that it can use with its action that deals 2d6 elemental damage. So the way we can combo these is we can cast our Dragon's Breath spell onto our Homunculus. This Homunculus does have a flying speed, so it can do little damaging strafing runs across the battlefield, breathing lightning damage with its action. If that reanimated companion is within the area of effect, it's going to heal for that lightning damage dealt. So you'll be healing your ally and damaging enemies on your Homunculus's turn using its action. At this point, we can also deal damage with our own breath attack and also with the Shocking Grasp spell. So now our Homunculus can do a breath attack, damage enemies and heal our reanimated companion, and we can do a breath attack, damaging the enemies and healing our reanimated companion. So here at level 5, we already have 2 area of effect damaging effects that we can throw out per turn that will also heal our reanimated companion. Next, at Artificer level 6, we get the Magical Tinker feature, which gives us some new and interesting ways to interact with our magic items. Firstly, we gain Charge Magic Item, which lets us expend a spell slot to restore charges to a magical item. We also gain the Drain Magic Item feature, which is the flip side of this. We can destroy a magic item in exchange for spell slots. And finally, we also get Transmute Magic Item, which lets us turn one of our created magic items into another one for which we have the plans for. So if you're carrying around that bag of holding all day and suddenly you need a cap of water breathing, you can just turn your bag of holding into a cap of water breathing. Put that satchel over your head, which is kind of funny. So there's some good freedom of expression here. Additionally, we do get an upgrade to our magic item plans. This is going to let us take some more advanced magic items from a further list in the Artificer class. And one that we really should be considering is the Spell Refueling Ring, which lets us restore an expended spell slot up to 3rd level once per day. As we get into Animate Dead later on, getting an extra spell slot per day is actually going to prove very useful. And that's it for Artificer for the whole build. Now it's into Wizard to really load up on the spell slots and start taking advantage of the Animate Dead spell. Wizard levels 1 through 12, we're picking up Arcane Recovery, the School of Necromancy, an ability score improvement, the Animate Dead spell, the Lightning Bolt spell, and the Summon Undead spell. The Undead Thralls subclass feature, an ability score improvement, the Inured to Undeath feature, the Chain Lightning spell, another ability score improvement, and finally the Command Dead feature. So wizards get the charming Arcane Recovery feature at level 1. This lets you regain expended spell slots up to a total value of half your wizard level on a short rest, and none of the spell slots can be above 6th level. Like I mentioned with the Spell Refueling Ring, we'll take all the spell slots we can get to cast more Animate Deads later on. We start going through wizard levels pretty quickly here. The base wizard class hardly gets any features, but like all full casters, they get a new spell slot level every 2 levels. So from here on out, it'll mainly be new subclass features and new spells that we're going to learn. At wizard level 3, character level 9, we get our subclass, the School of Necromancy. The first feature this gives us is Grim Harvest. At 3rd level, you gain the ability to reap life energy from creatures you kill with your spells. Once per turn, when you kill 1 or more creatures with a spell of 1st level or higher, you regain hit points equal to twice the spell's level, or 3 times its level if the spell belongs to the School of Necromancy. You don't gain this benefit for killing constructs or undead. Considering our reanimated companion lets us add our intelligence modifier to our Artificer Necromancy damaging spells, this is actually some pretty nice synergy. Next, at character level 10, wizard level 4, we get our second ability score improvement. Since we like dealing lightning damage, I think it's a good time to take Elemental Adept. Increase your Wisdom, Intelligence, or Charisma score by +1 to a maximum of 20. Choose one of the following damage types: Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Thunder. Spells you cast ignore resistance to damage of the chosen type. In addition, when you roll spell damage of that type, you can treat any 1 on a damage die as a 2. This also increases the consistency of healing on our reanimated companion, making it both a damage buff and a healing buff. Next, at Wizard level 5, character level 11, we finally get the Animate Dead spell. This spell lets you target either a pile of bones or the corpse of a small or medium creature, and you create either a skeleton or a zombie, respectively. You can command any number of these creatures under your control using a bonus action in combat. This does compete with the bonus action we use to command our reanimated companion. However, the creatures from Animate Dead will continue to follow the order until it is completed, whereas the reanimated companion needs to be ordered to take a specific action every turn. So, in combat, you can use your first turn to order your Animated Dead minions something general, like kill all the enemies, or kill anybody who crosses this line, or something like that. And then you shouldn't need to issue them another order in that combat unless the battlefield drastically changes. So you can use all of your subsequent turns' bonus actions to command your reanimated companion instead. So that way, even though they're both a bonus action, you'll be able to have all of those minions acting every combat. This spell is going to animate 1 undead minion, and it remains under your control for 24 hours. Before that 24 hours is up, you can cast the spell again to reassert control over up to 4 undead created by your Animate Dead spell. So the way this works in practice is you can control far more undead than you can animate in any given day based on the total number of spell slots that you have. So you'll need to take a few days building up your undead army, making sure to keep all those undead under your control by reasserting control over them before the 24 hours is up. You're going to spend the first day animating as many companions as you can, and then on subsequent days, you'll need to save a few spell slots to reassert control over the entire horde. Now, it's best to do all of your undead management at the end of the day, so you can still use your spell slots during the day if you need to, and then just use what you have left for animating and controlling. Just to better understand this, let's take a quick look at how this would work for a 5th level wizard who has 2 3rd level spell slots. On day 1, you're going to spend both spell slots to animate 2 minions. Then on day 2, you can animate 1 more minion and then use your other spell slot to reassert control over your 2 leftover minions from day 1. And then on day 3, you can animate a 4th minion with your first spell slot and then reassert control over the 3 minions from the previous day with your second spell slot. And then on day 4, you can animate a 5th minion and then reassert control over your previous 4. Then on day 5, you'll have 5 minions under your control until the end of the day. This is kind of your maximum, because if you were to animate a 6th, you would only be able to reassert control over the first 4 undead minions, and you would then lose control over that 5th minion from day 4. So even though with 2 spell slots you could technically reassert control over 8 minions, because of the cost of animation, you'll never actually reach that number. So basically, your maximum manageable amount of minions will always be 1 spell slot's worth of reassertion less than the total number of all of your spell slots combined, which is to say, with 2 3rd level spell slots, even though you could reassert 8, you really can only control 4 and then animate a 5th during the day if you wanted to have it, but you wouldn't be able to keep all 5 on the next day. Using higher level spell slots, you can animate and reassert control over 2 additional undead per spell slot level above 3rd, meaning with a 4th level spell slot, you can animate 3 undead and reassert control over 6 undead. So our character is currently an 8th level caster thanks to our Artificer half-caster levels, meaning we have 3 3rd level spell slots and 2 4th level spell slots. Plus, we have the Arcane Recovery feature and the Spell Refueling Ring for an extra 2 3rd level spell slots per day. So that's 5 3rd level spell slots in total. This means we can animate up to 11 minions per day, or you can reassert control over up to 32 undead minions. But like I mentioned, you'll never actually be able to get up to 32 because you'll need to reassert control on the same day that you're animating more, so you'll have used some of your spell slots already. So in practice, you can manage a total of 26 undead minions. So that's how managing an undead army with Animate Dead works. As we get higher and higher level spell slots, we're going to be growing this army a massive amount. It's worth mentioning that skeletons are more sustainable than zombies. This is because when a zombie under your control dies, it becomes the corpse of an undead creature, and the Animate Dead spell targets the corpse of a humanoid creature, so you cannot reuse zombie bodies. However, When a skeleton dies, it becomes a pile of bones, and can therefore be targeted by the Animate Dead spell once again. Also, the bones don't have to come from a humanoid. You can animate the bones of any creature that you find. It'll still end up as a humanoid-shaped skeleton using the skeleton stat block, but it offers more of a unique flavor. If, for instance, you make a skeleton creature out of the skeleton of a deer, and it ends up having horns or hooves for feet, you get some pretty fun aesthetics there. Now, we also get access to 2 other spells at this level that are worth taking. First is Summon Dead, a concentration spell which summons a single undead minion under your control for 1 hour. Using our concentration for this, we can now have 2 specialized undead minions, our Reanimated Companion and the Summoned Undead Creature, and then we'll have our army of animated undead creatures as more of a general force. We can also take a Lightning Bolt at this point, a powerful Area of Effect spell that deals lightning damage in a 100-foot line. This will heal our Reanimated Companion basically to full, since it only has 28 hit points. Next, at Wizard level 6, we're going to get another subclass feature, Undead Thralls. At 6th level, you add the Animate Dead spell to your spellbook if it's not there already. When you cast Animate Dead, you can target 1 additional corpse or pile of bones, creating another zombie or skeleton as appropriate. Whenever you create an undead using a necromancy spell, it has additional benefits. The creature's hit point maximum is increased by an amount equal to your wizard level. The creature adds your proficiency bonus to its weapon damage rolls. More damage and health is nice on those undead minions, but the best part is the additional animated undead. This will significantly increase how quickly you can fill up your undead army. Keep in mind that this doesn't increase the amount that you can reassert control over, only the amount that you animate with the casting of that spell. Alright, let's jump to wizard level 8, character level 14 for another ability score improvement. We do have this floating 19 intelligence, so let's take a feat to bump it up to 20. We're going to take Spell Sniper. Increase your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma score by 1 to a maximum of 20. Your attack rolls for spells ignore half cover and 3/4 cover. Being within 5 feet of an enemy doesn't impose disadvantage on your attack rolls with spells. When you cast a spell that has a range of at least 10 feet and requires you to make an attack roll, you can increase the spell's range by 60 feet. With this feat, our intelligence is now maxed out at 20 for the +5 modifier. Now, let's jump to wizard level 10 and character level 16 for the subclass feature, Unearthed to Undeath. Beginning at 10th level, you have resistance to necrotic damage, and your hit point maximum can't be reduced. You have spent so much time dealing with undead and the forces that animate them that you have become inured to some of their worst effects. Next, at wizard level 11, we get access to 6th level spells, meaning we can now take Chain Lightning. This spell can target up to 4 creatures, dealing 10d8 lightning damage on a failed dexterity saving throw. Once again, we can use this to both deal damage to enemies and heal our own Reanimated Companion at the same time. And what's nice is this isn't actually an area of effect spell. It separately targets 4 creatures, meaning it's much easier to use this offensively when we have a giant horde of undead populating the battlefield without worrying about hurting our undead. Wizard level 12 gets us another ability score improvement, and let's just bump our constitution up to 16 for some extra hit points and some more consistent concentration checks. Next, our final feature comes at wizard level 14, character level 20, Command Undead. Starting at 14th level, you can use magic to bring undead under your control, even those created by other wizards. As an action, you can choose 1 undead that you can see within 60 feet of you. That creature must make a charisma saving throw against your wizard spell save DC. If it succeeds, you can't use this feature on it again. If it fails, it becomes friendly to you and obeys your commands until you use this feature again. Intelligent undead are harder to control in this way. If the target has an intelligence of 8 or higher, it has advantage on the saving throw. If it fails the saving throw and has an intelligence of 12 or higher, it can repeat the saving throw at the end of every hour until it succeeds and breaks free. So this is a powerful feature depending on what undead you are able to encounter in your campaign. There are some surprisingly powerful undead out there with very low intelligence scores. Mummy Lords, Night Walkers, Zombie Beholders. A surprisingly good one is actually the Wight, which can create its own undead army out of creatures that it kills. And with it under your control, its army is your army. So use this feature to take control of a suitably powerful undead creature, and that gives you 3 unique undead minions to serve as lieutenants: the Reanimated Companion, the Command Undead monster, and the Summon Undead spell. And then you'll have an entire legion of skeletons and zombies from the Animate Dead spell as well. And that's the build. So this build has 2 main focuses. Number 1 is gaining undead minions. We get our first at character level 3, then we get a homunculus at character level 5, which we can flavor as a little undead cherub. At character level 11, we get access to the Animate Dead spell, and we can start building up our undead horde. We also get the Summon Undead spell for a short duration undead minion at that same level. From level 11 onward, every time we get more spell slots, that is subsequently becoming more undead minions that we can control. And finally, at character level 20, we'll pick up Command Undead, so we can take control of a single powerful undead monster as long as it's got a low intelligence. At character level 11, when we first pick up Animate Dead, we'll be able to manage up to 25 undead creatures using that spell. And then by 20th level, that number is going to go all the way up to 121, if my math serves correctly. If you play Warhammer 40k like I do, this is going to feel a lot closer to that than traditional Dungeons and Dragons. Our second focus is dealing lightning damage, which doubles as a source of healing for our first undead minion, the Reanimated Companion. We'll start out with Shocking Grasp and our Dragonborn Breath weapon. Then at level 5, we'll be able to pick up the Dragon's Breath spell to grant either ourselves or the homunculus a breath weapon. At character level 7, we'll get access to wizard spells. We can pick up some good ones like Chromatic Orb, Lightning Lure, things like that. Level 11 brings us the Lightning Bolt spell. And finally, at level 17, we'll get our ultimate lightning damage spell, Chain Lightning. Alright, that's it. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video, and let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the Mad Doctor Reanimator. There's plenty of good undead controlling builds out there, but they mostly always have the classic death and necrotic necromancer theme, you know, green energy, dark robes, that sort of thing. But a Mad Doctor building zombies and spewing lightning from their mouth and fingertips, it feels like a pretty fresh aesthetic to me. I'm not really sure what kind of build to do next week, so everyone watching, if you have a good idea, leave your suggestions in the comments down below. I'll be reading the comments throughout the week, and I'm going to choose one of them to be next week's video. Thanks again for watching, and come back every Monday for another original character build. I'll see y'all next week.